$10 million isn't a fortress. It's a slaughterhouse waiting for a spark. You've been sold a financial suicide pact disguised as a genius millionaire strategy. Today, we expose the fatal, wealth-destroying trap hidden inside this massive empire. Copy this portfolio, and the next crash will annihilate you. This market has no heart. It doesn't care how many sleepless nights you've stayed up, how exhausted you've been, or how beautiful your dream of financial freedom is. It's a savage beast, a cold-blooded machine that crushes dreamers and waits to devour you the moment you reveal even a fraction of your weakness. You look at the number $10 million and what do you see? Absolute security? A priceless ticket to permanent early retirement? Don't be so naive. $10 million in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to protect their finances is just a ticking time bomb, a bloody feast prepared by the market to take back everything it has given away, plus exorbitant interest rates. If you think making millions is the end of the game, then you've already put one foot in the financial death trap. Right now, if you're eager to uncover the naked truth behind the glamorous facades of the super rich and don't want to be the next victim, subscribe to the channel now. Your support is our lifeline to continue exposing the most ruthless, hidden aspects of this money game. Money Glow Up 02 warmly welcomes you and welcomes those who are truly serious about their financial future to one of the most brutal analyses we've ever conducted. Today, we're not here to flatter each other's egos or celebrate superficial achievements. We're going to put Graham Stephan's entire $10 million portfolio, one of YouTube's most prominent financial prodigies, a self-made millionaire under 30, on the operating table. And the surgeon is none other than Kevin O'Leary, a seasoned shark, a seasoned veteran who has tasted blood and tears through countless brutal economic cycles. This isn't a typical review. It's a fiery clash of two financial ideologies, two generations with completely opposite perspectives on the boundaries of survival. You, Gen Z and millennials, are living in a dangerous illusion. You grew up swept up in a hustle culture where working frantically, making money quickly, and leveraging to the teeth are worshipped as truths. You were born in an era where money is too cheap, where interest rates have been near zero for the past decade. That has instilled in your minds a deadly complacency that borrowing is an easy game. You despise cash. You call it lazy money being devoured by the monster of inflation every day. You fear standing still so much that you're willing to gamble on anything to maximize your resources. But step back and look through the eyes of a man who started his business in the 1980s, like Kevin O'Leary. Imagine a scenario where mortgage interest rates stifle dreams at 18%. Hyperinflation sweeps through every corner of the economy like a storm, and borrowing even $1 from a bank requires a razor-sharp plan and an iron will to avoid being crushed. That environment has forged an extreme defensive mindset, a philosophy of building fortifications to protect assets for those who know that the game of keeping money is 100 times harder than the game of making money. Graham Stephan was sharp, intelligent, and had poured every ounce of his youthful energy into building an enviable fortune. But when Kevin's discerning eye scanned that portfolio, he saw no greatness. What he saw were fatal flaws, lurking macroeconomic risks, and an imbalance that could bring down an entire empire overnight. Earning your first $1 million proves you're a brilliant warrior on the offensive battlefield. But whether you can keep it intact through 3 or 4 economic recessions requires the skill of a general who knows how to set defensive traps. If you only charge forward without a backup, when the crisis hits, the market won't shed a tear for you. It will strip away all your gains, pushing you back to square one with nothing and a mountain of debt. So, is the strategy that millions are blindly following online truly bulletproof? Are there seeds of destruction taking root within that vast fortune? Cast aside any dreams of getting rich overnight. Prepare for a journey into the numbers, dissecting the mistakes of youth to uncover the bitter lessons learned only by the survivors. A decades old can pass it on to you. To uncover those very seeds of destruction within this seemingly invincible $10 million empire, we must first examine the heavy, immovable foundation upon which it was built. Graham Stephan's origin story is inextricably linked to real estate, a sector that demands sweat equity, relentless negotiation, and a willingness to plunge deep into the world of leverage. When you look at his portfolio, you see a staggering concentration of wealth locked away in physical properties: wood, bricks, drywall, and dirt. To a young investor who has only ever witnessed a massive, decade-long bull run in housing prices, this looks like a stroke of undeniable genius. You buy a property, you rent it out, the tenant pays down your mortgage, and the asset appreciates. It feels like a perpetual motion machine of wealth creation. But when Kevin O'Leary's seasoned eyes scan this heavy concentration, he does not see a fortress of passive income. He sees a colossal, unyielding trap of illiquidity. You have to understand that real estate is a beautiful wealth builder, but it can be an absolutely terrible wealth protector when the macroeconomic winds violently shift. O'Leary understands a fundamental truth that a younger generation has yet to fully grasp. You cannot liquidate a bathroom to pay for emergency expenses. You cannot sell a fraction of your roof when the credit markets freeze and the banks suddenly call in their loans. When over half of your entire net worth is anchored in a single, highly illiquid asset class, you are not truly diversified. You are simply placing a massive, leveraged bet on the continued stability of the housing market. In a severe economic contraction, real estate is not just illiquid, it becomes a psychological and financial burden. Properties sit empty, tenants default on their rent, maintenance costs continue to bleed your reserves dry, and property taxes do not care if you have lost your primary source of income. Kevin's critique cuts straight to the bone, because he remembers the days when interest rates spiked to double digits, causing housing markets to completely seize up. He knows that being land-rich and cash-poor is one of the most agonizing ways to go bankrupt. Graham is emotionally attached to his properties. He sees them as his children, the tangible trophies of his early hustle. But the market doesn't care about your nostalgia. A seasoned shark like Kevin operates on cold, hard metrics, and his golden rule is ruthless. Never let one sector dictate the survival of your entire portfolio. By allowing real estate to dominate his net worth, Graham is walking on a tightrope without a safety net, assuming that the liquidity he currently enjoys will always be there when he needs it. It is a classic mistake of youth, confusing paper equity with actual spendable wealth. If a systemic shock were to hit, that massive equity could evaporate into thin air, leaving him holding properties that are bleeding cash and impossible to offload without taking catastrophic, wealth-destroying haircuts. The illusion of safety in physical assets is exactly what blinds you to the storm gathering on the horizon. Yet even as the stifling weight of physical real estate anchors his wealth dangerously in one sector, his attempt to diversify through the stock market exposes an entirely different but equally fatal vulnerability. Graham's approach to equities is the absolute embodiment of the modern, millennial investing gospel. Pour your capital blindly and consistently into broad market index funds, specifically the S&P 500, and just let it ride. It is a strategy built on the comforting, heavily marketed premise that the stock market always goes up over the long term. For a young millionaire who has spent his entire adult life riding the longest, most artificially stimulated bull market in human history, this strategy feels utterly flawless. You buy, you hold, and you watch the numbers on your screen compound into infinity. But Kevin O'Leary looks at this passive, almost robotic approach to equities and sees a deeply concerning lack of defensive architecture. To a veteran investor who survived the dot-com bubble bursting, the 2008 financial crisis, and the brutal bear markets of decades past, relying entirely on capital appreciation is a terrifyingly fragile game plan. When you put all your faith in broad index funds without a demanding standard for yield, you are entirely at the mercy of market sentiment. You are praying that when it is time for you to finally step back and rely on that wealth, the market will be in a generous mood. But what happens when we enter a lost decade? What happens when the S&P 500 trades sideways, or worse, spirals down by 40% and stays there for years? If your portfolio does not generate meaningful, consistent cash flow through dividends, your only mechanism for survival is to sell your shares at the exact moment they are worth $2.